It's that time. Thank you again for joining us. This is Sifu Aldecascos.
All right. Hey guys, I'm really glad that you're joining us to really get a program that's full of visual action. I mean, all you have to do is picture it in your head, and you'll ride along with us as we venture into the world. Well, it's not quite Christmas yet, but this guy's really screwing things up all over the world. Anyway, let's get going, guys. I want you guys to meet a guy that surprised me in almost every turn of the corner, and I think you're going to enjoy him. Let me say that I've known him since he was 13 years old. It's been quite a while now. I mean, going on many decades. And he's really fulfilled a lot of the dreams that he's really wanted to do. I mean, I hear some of the stories and have seen him in action. He's been fighting in a lot of tournaments, training champions, pretty good champions. And, you know, he's had affiliation with some outlaw groups, and we're going to talk about it and see how the thing has manifested him into, or let's say develop him into the man that he is today. This, I think, is going to be really exciting to know how you can take and turn things around to make it to be on your side. In other words, turning things that taking the good and the bad to formulate things that's really going to be enjoyable. I want to hear about his wolf pack mentality, how he handles things, and because he's been in a lot of us can only dream of it, that you never get into it, but he actually got into it. And, you know, multiple types of fighting out on the streets, and, you know, and fighting into bare knuckle tournaments. And wow, what can I say? I think it's kind of exciting. It's like a book in progress. So it's exciting. So here, guys, I want you guys to give a good old hand clap to the first time ever on this channel. I want you guys to welcome on the Grinch. Let's give him a good old clap, guys. Let's go. The Grinch. All right. You got it.
How's it going?
All right, Mr. Grinch.
That's King Grinch.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking real cool on it. I mean, I like the way that you dress, and you know, got a lot of questions to start off. But you know, there's so many questions. Basically, 12 questions. I want to get started with you. And first of all, you know, there's a thing that I want to know. It's why. I mean, we can get into your life history, but that's going to be coming along. Why the Grinch?
Why? Well, it's not a matter of why, because I am the Grinch. Now, when I decided to expose myself to the public was about 6 years ago. And when I first started out, I wore a rubber mask over my mask because I'm not sure everybody could handle the absolute beauty of this face. So I have some pictures I sent you when I was wearing my rubber mask. Anyways, the Grinch, well, why not the Grinch? The Grinch doesn't like anybody, and he pretty much hates everyone. He's the international a-hole of the holidays. Quite frankly, the Grinch is not a milk cookies type of person. That fat red clown, you kids can have him. He's for the goody two-shoes. I'm the Grinch. I like cigars and bourbon.
Yeah, I saw a video, and I think the thing went international, all over the place. And I guess somebody just got you riding on a motorcycle, heading for somewhere, and as they got up real close to you, back from the back, and pull up to the side of you, you just kind of glanced over to him and gave him a real nice a welcome. and that thing just clicked on all kinds of things. Was it? Are you mostly up in the what area of the mainland are you in?
Well, I have a good friend. Basically, my only brother is Sifu Mike Madden, and he's over in Oregon. And so I visit him, and that's the places I like to venture. If you happen to see that I'm doing a venue, then you just need to try and make it.
Yeah, so you got some problems with the law there, I see, huh?
Oh yeah, they they don't know whether to arrest me or want to take a picture with me because, again, I'm the international a-hole of the holidays. Like, I think not everybody gets a picture with an outlaw.
That's really classic. I mean, when I first saw the thing come out a year or 2 years ago, I can't remember when. I mean, I was thinking, oh boy, man, I hope he just don't get into trouble. But I guess you did. I mean, it's now, you see Santa Claus, but Santa Claus is a good guy and you the other guy, and you just kind of made Christmas a little bit more interesting. And it's like, do you start your mayhem? When do you start getting on the roll? Is it all year round or what?
It's over here. It's so hot, and I like the cold weather. So I try to start around in December, beginning of December, and anything I can do to screw up Santa's holidays, I will. And so, I've crashed a couple of his venues and told him he's in my seat, and he ends up leaving, which is great. And and then sometimes I'll mess with the bunny rabbit too, and I'll just be the Grinch bunny. And so I kind of just go where I think that I can disrupt the most happy goody two shoes, I guess you want to say.
Well, I know that when you're on the scene over there, people begin to appreciate Christmas and Santa Claus more because they see the other side of it. And I can see the value in it because how do you appreciate good when you don't see the bad guy coming along?
Right.
Anyway.
Santa wants to be all, nice pictures, this and that. I'll get the little crybabies, and they're my favorite. I like to grab them by the ankles and lift them upside down by 1 foot, and then I see how they cry.
Yeah, there's another picture of it of a little girl that was actually crying. She was probably panicked. But this one here seems to be like, wow, what, he never saw the world upside down, never saw Christmas upside down, and he just totally turned it upside down for her.
And those are my favorite. Those are the crybaby pictures. We gotta have.
Right. Okay. Now we're gonna jump around because I know that we want to get into it. Yeah, and is actually I want to get into the Grinch exposed. Who the Grinch is. And I'm gonna jump to one because it kind of sticks to me because we were talking about the mentality of the wolf pack. I don't know whether you want to expose yourself now or who is the Grinch?
So the Grinch has two personalities. And so if you would like the other personality to come out, I'll just bring him out.
Bring him out.
All right. 1 second.
I've known him since he was 13, 14 years old. And he started coming over with his instructor, Marty May, in our sparring class, which was on Friday nights. And I just kind of noticed this young kid. I mean, he had some fantastic kicks. He was just dropping people in our sparring class. So, he's been constantly with us and eventually studied a lot of the materials that I taught him. And he's been with us now for maybe 30 years, maybe 40 years. He's learned a lot of things and has come into his own. You get a chance to see what his mentality is.
Here I am.
Here you go, guys. Mike Mather. Let's talk about something over here because we talk about your theory of the wolf pack. What's the mentality behind that?
Wolf pack. Well, there's the jackals and the wolves. Wolf pack. There's only two places that a wolf pack exists. In military, and that I've found anyways, is the military and 1% bikers. It's where I am my brother's keeper. That's the only place I've ever really seen it. Everybody wants to say that, I got your back or this and that, but when a push comes to shove, do they really? And, I've always been, I grew up with the mentality, what I say I do, period. There is no going back on my word. If I got somebody's back, I got their back. That's just in the story. They don't have to be present to know that I have their back.
Mhm.
And it's just a, you know, I live by a different set of rules. Those guys they live by that set of rules. So my theory of, you know, the wolf pack, unless you play with the wolves, you won't understand how the wolves think.
I got that. So how is it that you, because we talk about a lot of things, and how is it that the Grinch and your association with the Hell Angels has a different outlook on with the outlaws and the in-laws?
Oh, well, so, you know, I've associated with all the pretty much 1% clubs. And I guess kind of got to get to the point of how I even got involved with some of them versus one in particular group. It isn't just one group. I used to teach seminars in schools everywhere, and it always frustrated me that I would teach the seminar to someone's students or this and that, but I know in my heart or my mind, I'm showing them stuff, and 90% of these students won't have the heart to commit to do what I'm telling them to do, because I know what works out there because I've lived it. When I was in Sturgis one year, I want to say maybe it was 2009. Anyways, I seen the guy he had some different stuff there, and back then I had one tattoo, and it was just this one. It was just it said Sifu, and then it had my skull and knives, and he's seen that. Well, I recognized who the guy was as a martial artist, and he was like 7 feet tall, big, Hell's Angel, and he says, "Oh, you know, you do martial arts?" And I said, "Yeah." And he says, "Oh," he goes, "Well, what do you do if somebody pulls a knife out?" And I said, as soon as he pulled that knife out, I disarmed him and held it back at him. And he's like, "Whoa." He goes, "Other clubs really need to see that. Other brothers need to see that." And so that made me think, and you got to think back then, there was no Facebook really. I think they might have had a MySpace, and there's really no way you can kind of contact anybody. And it was kind of like, well, I, did what I could, and after contacting different people, this and that, it took about 2 months, so I ended up starting to train some of those guys. Finally went down to Mesa, Arizona, and trained a group down there, and ultimately, and then next thing you know, I'm hanging out with them more, and their venues, their events. Anyways, when I finally got a hold of them, I said, "Hey, my name's Sifu Mike Mather. You want me to teach you how to fight? Here's my bio and this and that." And I guess what's funny about the whole thing is, I went down there. There was about 30 of them showed up, and we did our seminar. And of course, I'm showing controlled force and positioning and this and that. And one of the guys says, "Well, if I get in the clinch, you're in trouble." And so I said, "Well, you might think so." And so he did. And of course, I popped him up. I picked him up, slammed him on his head, and I grabbed his wrist and just smashed on it. Then everybody's all watching. We're watching now. What else you got? Well, he was kind of a test, a guy to basically kind of see if I was the real deal. And so when it was all said and done, it kind of went, internationally, because who calls the Hell's Angels up and says, "Hey, let me teach you how to fight?" And so that's how it kind of all started. And then, but I have friends in quite a few of the different groups, and I've always considered myself, laws are to me kind of suggestions and maybe opinions on some things, because I didn't vote for them. So I mean, if laws there, it's kind of meant to be broken a little bit. And so I've always kind of been an outlaw in that sense, and I'm a free spirit. I'm going to do what I want, as long as I'm not hurting anybody.
I guess you say that as long as it doesn't hurt anybody. Let's get into one that we were talking about. I guess this happened in 2012, where you were invited down to a venue in Arizona to take on a professional boxer who had a whole bunch of wins and no losses, and they had set the thing up for you. Can you tell me more about that? I think Sonny got a poster on that one too. I'd like to see the poster, and you go ahead and talk about it.
Yeah, I think you got a picture of the group of us that went down, and I have 2 students with me in that picture. So this guy, the matchmaker, originally I was setting it up for one of my fighters to go down, and then they asked if I wanted to be, that's a different one. That is one of my MMA bouts. It's a group picture I have. Anyways, I said, I don't really have any videos of me fighting and this and that because I lost a lot of that stuff in my first marriage. And most of the stuff we had is VHS recordings. And so anyways, I said, yeah, I'll take on this guy. Who do you got? He goes, well, I got a guy that the matchmaker said he had a guy that turned pro, and he had a number of fights, and he was in his 20s. And he was undefeated. And I said, oh, I'll fight him. I don't care. It's boxing. What, who cares? And so I had to get down to 190. So I trained for 3-4 months, religiously, and got down there, weigh in. And my fighter, he weighed in. We're at the weigh-ins, and I'm looking, where's my guy at, And so, he's on his way. Well, so I'm working with my guy, my student. We're hitting pads and this and that. And what my understanding is, his trainers called him and says, don't show up, because they were worried about me just smashing this guy. And because he watched me, I think I just turned 40, and and I'm working with my student. Well, so when my student went in there, he smoked his guy, and they were watching me slap my student, around and hit him with pads and stuff. And they were just like, I guess they called him and told him no show. So I was so mad. I was kicking trash cans around, and and this is a smoker event. And so you got, a couple of thousand outlaws around there, and bikers and stuff. It was a biker event. And so I get in, I just grabbed the mic from the promoter and said, I'll take on any 2 guys, bare knuckles. And I was going around asking anybody, you want to fight? Let's just step in the ring. And nobody wanted to fight me. And so that guy no-showed, and we're the main event. The promoter of the deal, he just says, hey, let's just go down to the bar and we'll just drink. And so he got me to just, go and have some shots or whatever, because I was pretty steamed. I was causing a lot of havoc. I posted a picture the other day, and one of the guys that was there, he remembers the whole deal, how I was going around everywhere, trying to challenge anybody I could that wanted to fight me, and nobody wanted to. When you train for 4 months, and you're eat, sleep, and pretty much crap training, and then nobody, you got all this adrenaline. You want to smash somebody.
We talked about, I think it was in 2009. I'm not sure. Did you say either you got into an accident, you broke your back, and it was laid up for about a year?
That was May of 2005.
Oh, 2005.
I've been in construction my whole life. I was building a deck on the 2nd story of a building. And I was running up the ladder nailing 2x8 joists, and I ran up the ladder, the leg broke, and I fell, and I landed on a cement pier block that was down below, right on my back, and it broke 5 vertebrae, my L2, 3, 4, 5, and S1. The 5 and S1, or the L2, 3, 4, the transverse process broke, and the 5S1 was a compression fracture. I was in bed for about a year, and at that time, so it was probably 2 months before that, I was going through a separation with my first wife, and that's where I met my wife now, Ruth. And Ruth has been a godsend to me, because you go through the trials and tribulations of life. You're tested in every square inch. Matter of fact, that was, you and I did a shot in the magazines. I think we were in Inside Kung Fu, and I was your Yuki, and we were doing a bunch of stuff together. And so a lot of things were coming out. I had a couple things that I was working on also that were like going towards acting, and because I was really at the top of my game back then. And so then I broke my back, and here I'm in bed I was in bed for a year. You know, my wife now, she dropped everything because I lost everything. You know, and so she dropped everything and moved in with me after only knowing me a couple months and took care of me. I mean, she was my rock, my support. And so I was in bed for a year, and it took about another year to where I could even like just bend over like this, you know, because one of my muscles separated, you know, where it hit too, and so it was just super weak. Then I couldn't run anymore because the jarring. So I had a good friend that had a mountain bike. I started riding that thing every day until I could ride 20 miles a day, and it was a slow process. So finally, I reopened my gym 2009, and I finally got in good enough shape where I could fight next tournament, and it was actually at Ricky Cropper's tournament in 2010, and I cleaned house, like, you know, I mean, went after everybody. And so, and you know, I still don't feel, my right leg has been numb since 2005. I mean, it took a lot. I had to like retrain myself a little bit because it's like feels like pins and needles on my right foot, and so there was a lot of obstacles to overcome. You know, it's like I can't quite fly through the air like I used to. I've been working on it still. I'm 49, and I can still throw some pretty good hook kicks and things like that. But you remember when I could throw a couple kicks in the air and land. I mean, I did some, you know, crazy stuff, but it's that twisting, you know, it's kind of stopped me a little bit. But hey, I'm not. I'll stop when I'm 6 feet under.
Give me a little bit of history about yourself. You know, you started before you were 13 years old, and I know that probably your father has been a real great inspiration into you. So
my dad was a Vietnam vet, and you know, my dad, he knew I always had this. I had a ton of pent up energy all the time, and so he would always slap box with me. I remember even being, you know, in kindergarten and just, you know, and him playing slap box, and he'd slap my face, and he hands up, and he's always working with me. And so he got me into wrestling at 6, and when I was in wrestling, I met who would later be one of my closest friends, Travis Sue, because he was wrestling. And then one of my other childhood friends, dad was a Golden Gloves boxer, and him and I hung out, you know, from first grade on. And so his dad would teach us boxing. Well, then when I met Travis in 4th grade, there was a real bully problem back then, and him and I, we were friends in wrestling, and then come to find out his dad was the #1 contender in the world, Richard Sweet Sue. Matter of fact, I got a picture of him right there. If you know, that was his dad. Can you see that?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So, anyways, so he would teach us boxing and whatnot. So 6th graders were really a bad thing, and so Travis and I, to make a long story short, we teamed up on those kids, and we ended up taking them all, you know, out much. But what got my first martial arts training was actual trick-or-treating one year with my other friend Brian, and we had these bullies. They took all of our candy, and so it just drove me. I mean, I was so, you know, furious, and so we rented every VHS movie you could find on martial arts. Enter the Dragon, whatever, Revenge of the Ninja. I think of all those old movies, and we would wear them out, you know, because, you know, stop, rewind, fast forward, or whatever, pause. Hey, how do you do that move, right? And so we ended up, his mom ended up having, she bought a brand new broom, and I think I was in 5th grade, in 5th or 6th grade at this time, and I cut this broom up, and we made our own nunchucks, and we kept watching Enter the Dragon and watch Bruce Lee work those nunchucks, and so that's kind of how, you know, I really got interested in martial arts. But, you know, I was poor. We didn't have a bunch of money or this and that, and so my mom seen Parks and Rec. They were teaching Kung Fu, and in the Parks and Rec at St. Helens. And so I did that one summer. And so I think when I did that, I was 11 or well, maybe 11 or 12. And then I did it the next year. Well, then this young Mexican punk, Marty May, comes by walking through the park, and I'm wearing these pajamas, you know, the black Kung Fu pajamas. And we're doing, all we ever did is work forms. And it always frustrated me too, because I wanted to hit things, because that's, you know, I always hit my boxing bag at home and whatnot. Matter of fact, I think I sent you a pair of my very first boxing gloves. I was age 8. And so Marty says, hey, what do you know, with not so many choice words, sissy boys, you know, doing in those pajamas, I'll teach you how to fight if you want to fight one. You know, Marty was 16 and I was about 12, 13 years old. And so I'm looking at him, looking up, I'm like, okay, I want to learn to fight. And so I would ride my bicycle from 4 miles from Warren to St. Helens and train, be his punching dummy in his mom's garage. And so like, I was kind of like one of his first students. You know, Marty just got his black belt. And then you know, we would compete, him, Robert Schwarzy, a few others, and we'd go, you know, everywhere we could. And so we used to go and train at Ricky Cropper's basement. Back then, I remember the ceiling wasn't very tall, and you get this guy, Joe Fay, who was a kickboxer. You'd watch him, he was shorter than me, but he would jump up, do these spin hook kicks and all these crazy things. And it was only like 6, 7 feet down there where you could, you know, you'd almost hit your head and you're sparring down there. And I really loved some of the spin hook kicks and things. And so that's how I met you, is when you had your school in Portland, and we went to the open spar and whatnot. Like I said, I remember asking you, well, how much are classes? Because I really loved watching you move and when you do the weapons and stuff. And that was the thing I was missing, is I didn't know how to do weapons really at all. Because my first arts were wrestling, boxing, and Taekwondo. It was kind of Taekwondo and Shotokan karate, and but no weapons really. And so, you know, I'd watch you flip your knife around, and some of the students working the cudgel or bow staff, and it's like, wow, you know, but I couldn't afford your classes. So I remember showing up early. A lot of times when I could start driving, when I was 16, I'd show up early over there. You had me attend a few of the classes, just get in there and attend, you know, and so I would attend a few of your classes back then, and I was like a scholarship kid. But you made me always, hey, make sure you're there. You know, like when you started doing some of your breaking into movies and stuff like that, make sure you're there, because I want to use you for doing some of the kicks and stuff. You know what I mean? And so, there was always a give and take. And so because of you, that's how I met John Daniels and Eric Lee. And so I used to, every single weekend for quite a few years, I would go up to John Daniels' house and train in his garage, and he taught me, you know, and he's a full instructor in Asano. At that time, he was working on his full instructorship. You know, he was awesome. He still is. I learned so much from him with the sticks and knives, and then we would come there, and then you would show your 2 cents with the elbows and everything else, following with knives and like the buzzsaw and some other attributes. And that's how I got into training with Kakoi Kennedy, is because of John Daniels and yourself. Mark Gary, one time in my early years, in my 20s, we would go to shoot like 3 times a year, go to George Dillman's camps, and did that for quite a few years. And then we would also go anywhere Eric Lee was doing some kind of 2 or 3 day seminars. We would go to his seminars. And so then I started hosting Eric at my own school quite a bit, as well as David Brandon, who was up in Seattle. We would host him quite a bit. And so that's how I started filling the gaps. Is I felt, to be proficient, there's 5 ranges: kicking, boxing, trapping, grappling, and projectile. But to be proficient in martial arts, to me in martial, it's death, it's a militant. You need to be proficient at every range. And that's what I was trying to do, is fill all my gaps. You know, I wrestled my whole life. You know, I boxed pretty much my whole life. You know, with the Taekwondo and the karate attributes, well, that's the hard system. So you learn how to bone breaking punches and kicks, right? And so then when I started training with you and Sifu Eric, I started learning the flow of the soft style, and then mix that with the FMA, the Filipino martial arts. You're flowing in, and then I already had the power. So if you can be soft and relaxed, you know, because once you make a fist, you're tense. But if you can be relaxed and flow around and then smack at the, you know, I have the power. I know how to do that attribute. So I would never change anything of how I learned what I've learned. I would never change it because I developed the dancing of boxing, the art of grappling, which grappling teaches you balance and using other people's weight against them. Then the hard punching and kicking, and then to add, after you learned all this hard, intense training, and then to learn to relax, then the explosion happens when you want it. It's like whipping a towel. The explosions at the end. And then we fought. So Marty, Mike, and myself, and Tim Gustafson, and I'm just naming a few of my teammates I've had over the years. John Fox, you know, Mike, you know, there's Mike Ruthati, and I mean, look how young we were there. You know, we traveled like I want to say from, you know, age 16 till I was roughly until I broke my back. We fought every weekend somewhere in the United States and Canada. I mean, you know, we fought somewhere, and so those are, I always call that my college years, because we spent so much time in hotels and this and that. And you know, what's always funny is we have such a great relationship, us, we still to this day. I think some of the biggest fights we had were when we got back to the hotel room and see who gets the bed, because we have sponsors that paid for us to go to some of these tournaments and to fight for them, you know, teams. And they would, of course, get one room, and we have three guys to share one bed. And so let's just say there's a few heads that went through some closets or walls or whatever. You never know.
You're a mechanic. You do a lot of mechanical work and everything. How many bikes do you have? I've seen that you've got one that you use in your Grinch outfit, but yeah. I've seen a couple of pictures of your bike, Grinch bike, right?
Yeah, that's the Grinch chopper.
And you got another one. How many bikes do you have?
I got two bikes. I've owned you know, a few Harleys over the years. And I've always just kind of favored towards a Harley. Harley to me speaks America. There's no other sound that sounds like a Harley. You know, it's the best bike there is, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, you know, there's other bikes out there that are probably more dependable, this and that, and whatever, but it's still not a Harley.
Right. I want to talk about this one here. Right?
Oh yeah.
All right, and guys, this is a knife that was gifted to me by Mike. He made it custom made, and he also made knives that ended up in the hands of Sylvester Stallone and, of course, my son Mark and some other celebrities. You know, so tell me more about your knife making.
So, you know, it all goes back to my first training in Filipino martial arts, actually working with knives. And as I was working with knives, you know, my big frustration with the training blades that were out there when I started, I don't even know if I have. Remember, I think it was Cold Steel or somebody that had this big old aluminum knife, and it was, to me, the most unrealistic training tool. It always frustrated me because nobody can run against somebody who's going to pull a Bowie knife out on you. It's going to be a clip it, a sport knife. So I made this knife probably close to 30 years ago. I don't know if you can see. So this was my first blade, and matter of fact, you, I think, got one. I know John Davis got one, and this was based on a Spyderco that I carried all the time. And because it was realistic, that's what I carried. That's what I used for work. You know, that's what I always had. So I'm of the opinion is you train with what you know and what you carry. And so that was my first one. Well, as time went on, of course, I developed, this was the next training knife, which is here. And I liked how it fit. It was, comfortable blade. And this was based on around the principle of the real knife I was still designing. So the handle slightly curved downward, cutting edge, had a slicing cutting edge, which is round right here. And then, so that way, being the handle was bent, so your 3 fingers, these are the grip, this is the weak link, but that would articulate when you slice it, exponentially slice. So, and I wanted the handle to be big enough to where I could hit with the punya, the bottom of it. And so that was my next trainer that I designed. And it was so well balanced, like you can put it in your finger and it's just balanced, and the way it fit and rolled around and how I could move with it. And so then I finished designing this. Well, my dad got cancer, and so I quit working on the real knife. So my real knife is, which like you have, which is this one. So I wanted something, so in the handle, I wanted something that felt like I was holding like a roll of dimes. I don't know if you've ever put a roll of dimes or a roll of quarters or a roll of nickels, but something in your hand and punch. Like I have a bunch of different knives, I got hundreds of knives, and I would put them in my hand because I play with every blade I have. And so I would put different knives in my hands and I'd punch with them. They might be too thin this way, and then the edges, so it felt like it was cutting into my hand when I'm hitting with it, right? Because it didn't feel comfortable. My hand, when I'm hitting with it, that was the purpose of why I designed this part of the blade like I did, because it feels like I got like a roll of dimes or something in there. It supports my hand really well. Then the indention here, because I watch people stab things or stab at or go to cut, and their hand would slip and slide down. So I created this notch here. So then also when I'm punching, it's just kind of a little bit of a protected there. But then the other thing is I wanted something that not only fit and wielded itself in a fencing or cooking position, but also ice pick position and fit comfortably that way. That was my whole idea behind the whole design of this. And then I wasn't happy with how the sheath was. And I didn't want anything that was like anybody else had. And so I created a sheath. When you're wearing it, the handle is face downward instead of up, like you would wear in a normal sheath, right? For one of these. And the reason behind that is, so I got one right here, if you can see me here. So it just looks like my keys, because I got a skull on the end of the handle. But you see how the handle is, it's only held by a snap and a magnetic strip in there to help, just for added friction. But it's just like a gunslinger of the Old West, right? You're draw. There it is. Right? So
wow. Do it again.
Huh?
Do it again. Yeah.
So I'm here, and he's like, okay, you ready? Draw. It's already out. And so in the handle here, see the skull? Well, you can whip the eyes with this, hook, slice, and this thing, I keep all my blades. I keep all my blades razor sharp. Look. You see this? They're all sharp, and I'll use it like that. What's the point of having a knife if you can't shave with it, right?
That's awesome. Well, you just gave us a real good lesson on it. So if people want to get your knife, how do they contact you to get it?
They just gotta message me. So, and understand, I have a student who makes, it's my design. I have a student who makes the blade, and it's Damascus steel. Is it true Damascus? Well, I don't really think, nobody has the true recipe for Damascus, but I punched it through a car hood. I use it. I think I got videos on there where I'm skinning deer and this and that. But it's ultimately, I get them, I polish them when I get them from them, when they're all done, and then I send them out. I put the whole package. If you look at everything here, it has a cedar box with with my Viking crest there, if you can see that, that's that one behind the wall there. And then so the blade has a soul. So if you can read that, I don't know if can you see that? Is it?
Yeah, I see it.
So that says in Swedish, so this is English, and then this is Swedish because I'm Swedish. And so it says, let it be known, the warrior who wields me, my spine is solid, so abuse it can take. My edge is fine, so I can cut through the wind and slice with extreme gracefulness. And my handle is hard, so I can take brute force punishment. My point is sharp, so I may pierce whatever is put before me. So, warrior, heed my warning, for my name is Dodge Shug, which means death strike. And when somebody does get one, they get a patch. This is my, the patch, and then they get a challenge point. I got quite a few challenge points. I felt, what, that's always been a huge meaning to me is because I got working with different military groups and whatnot. It's such an honor when you get from Special Forces a challenge point, or you get one from the U.S. Coast Guard. They made me my own patch. Nobody else has. Matter of fact, I'll show you.
Don't you think Mike is some kind of a character? He has so much things in his garage. He's training dummies, as you can see. He's also got his bob, and he practice on that diligently.
This was the maritime law enforcement for the U.S. Coast Guard. See that? They made that for me and gave this to me. I think I was 26 years old when I was working with those guys. So I was teaching them how to board boats because I'm also a mariner and I spend a lot of my time on the ocean. I was showing them how to you go to these third world countries. Well, you don't have to worry about guns so much, but blades, right? How do you handle or fight somebody who is little and fit between these small corridors on a ship, and then they pull a blade out on you? And so I showed a lot of the Coast Guard groups that would board the vessel how to handle situations, and so they all made that badge for me to put on my uniform, and I never sewed it on my uniform, my gi. I never sewed it on there because I thought it was such a great thing. And then I got other ones from Air Marshals. I got this was a cool one that was just given to me. It was Dead Shot, one shot, one kill, because I pretty much manhandled this guy that was 250 pounds and smashed on him, and he kind of like, well, hey, I got something to give you. Nobody's treated me like a bitch before. So
we were talking the other day. I know our time is really climbing up. I want to hear about this because we're talking about it when you were flying and you were sitting in first class and you knocked out the pilot.
Oh yeah. So it was one of the times I was going over to Pennsylvania to train at the Muhammad Ali training camp there, George Dillman. And one thing I can say that I really enjoyed about going there, I learned, just to hit at a bag or hit a dummy. When you learn where to hit, it's like aim small, hit small. You've heard that saying when you're shooting, right? Aim small, hit small. Well, why not the same when you're punching and kicking? Aim small, hit small. If your target is small, aim for that every time. You know what I mean? So training and learning the pressure points and acupuncture points at George Dillman only exponentially increased my attributes for not only manipulations, but striking and kicking and everything else. So anyways, I was going over there, and back then they would serve trays on the airplane. You remember the trays? You get trays and whatnot. And so I had an international, one of my bags that had an international badge on it. And so they flew me in first class. And so I was up there, and there was only one other person flying with me, I remember. And I hated, it's a long flight, and I hated sitting still. So I asked a couple of stewards, hey, you want me to show you some self-defense, moves, with the trays and stuff like that, and show some pressure points and, manipulation, somebody's grabbing them or whatever, or how to control. So I showed them some wrist locks and stuff. Well, back then, the pilot would fly with the cockpit open so he can kind of just, see what's going on in first class and whatnot. Well, he looks back and he says, "Hey, what's going on?" And I told him, I go, "I'm showing some different pressure points and knockout points." And so he had his co-pilot. He says, "Hey, you got the helm. I want to go back and see some of this stuff." And so he did. And he goes, "I don't believe that, that you can just grab an arm, hit here and hit the neck and knock him out." Well, so I said, "Okay." Well, he grabbed a hold of me. So I grabbed his wrist and I hit him in the crest of the arm, and I hit him right in the stomach and back and knocked him cold out. And he's out, and I cross his legs, rub his back, and get him back going and stuff, and help up. And goes, "Man, my head's killing me." And I'm like, "Yeah, well," I go, "Are you a believer now or what?" And he says, "Man, show me some more stuff." But what's so funny about that is that's just this how I was in it. But can you imagine doing that today? I'd be locked. I'd never be able to fly anywhere again.
Well, that's, we could talk. I could talk to you all day, and I know time has got, everybody has time. So now, I want to bring you on next time. We're going to call this part 1, and next time we'll call it part 2. But life is short, and even cut shorter. What would be your advice? Sort of something inspirational that you could give people today from all the experiences you've had. Something, what would you give us?
Well, one of my favorite words is pain. There is no other word that can describe that's both emotional, physical, and psychological. If you don't have pain in life, you're not living. You won't, you know what I mean? Like, without pain, you don't know you're alive. And so I guess if I can give advice, don't let the trials and tribulations of life knock you down. It's easy to give up. What's hard is to keep going forward, to keep climbing the ladder, to keep trying to accomplish what you can and be a man. A man's responsibility is to take care of his family and do what's right. Like, I look at society today, and it makes me sick at how many, adults there that want to say they're men, but they can't. They live at home, or they don't take care of responsibilities in life. Life isn't supposed to be easy, or you appreciate it. How do you appreciate something that just is given to you? There's no value in it. It's kind of like today's day. Everybody looks at life as, well, I should get, it's like the participation awards. Like, everybody's got awards anymore. So there's no value when you get one. And that's not, life should be a struggle. And so then you learn to value it. That's all. And, I'll never slow down. I'll always keep going full steam ahead, whether it's on my bike or whether it's sparring or, fighting or whatever it is. And I'll never be a person that is on my knees. Somebody says, stand up, I'm standing up. You'll never see me kneel down. I'll never fold to my morals and my standards of life, because it's the right thing to do in society. Well, that's just not me. So, I don't know. That's all I got. I mean, has anybody got any questions or anything like that?
For those of you that don't know, like I know Mike, you're talking about integrity, respect, honor, and somebody that got your back. He's been been with me and covered my back for ages. And one thing that what Mike says he's going to do, he's going to do. And I know that, we've got that relationship of that brotherhood for life. And that is something that I really honor about that, because that shows the loyalty and respect between two people. If you don't have that loyalty and respect, how can you build up your integrity? And you say and walk the talk. A lot of people can talk, but they don't do it. And for a person that had his back broken and have been through so many things, good and bad, And I look at you, I says, you know what? This is a prime example of what it is to be knocked down, flat on your back, nowhere to go, lost everything in life, you know, and then rebuild your life, good marriage, good school, and a good future. I mean, that is fantastic. And that's one reason why I wanted to bring you on, is because, you know, if people begin to see more deeply into themselves, and as I have seen you, um, there's more than a chapter in your life. There's a book of many different things. You've been in the barren sea. You've been a mariner. You've been a mechanic. You've been a construction. You've been a house maker. You've been a knife maker. You've been a martial artist. You've been in a hospital. You've been all over, and you've done and worked with the best of people, you know, and those that is on the other side of the law. So you've got that kind of experience at a young age to talk about it, where people have lived all their lives and really haven't accomplished a bunch of shit. In other words, you've got it, the good and the bad. So Mike, you know, I commend you, and I know that your mentality of learning both sides make it equally balanced, because then you have the philosophy of what yin and yang is all about. Some people can only talk about the good things, or some only about the bad things, and they cannot understand that there is going to be your side, his side, and the truth. And you've come that. And the only way in the martial arts that I see that accomplish that is just that the martial arts forces you to look at yourself. It gives you the inspiration to see, what am I spiritually, emotionally, physically, so that I can turn that around and give a better life to somebody else, because you've lived it. People talk about it, but you've lived it. So Mike, hands up to you. I mean, there's nothing else that, you know, well, I could add a lot of good things about it and talk about it, but, you know, I'm going to save that for part 2. So I want to turn it over now to Sonny, and we've got a lot of things coming up in the future, and so I'm going to let Sonny. And Mike, I appreciate you, and, you know, I love you like my brother, man. And matter of fact, I look at you as my son. You know, one of my bald-headed sons. You know,
Right.
And yeah. So, thank you very much for Mike for being there, and, you know, thank you for this, because, you know, I always play around with it, so I understand how you hold it, and I can understand the protection you have on it. Yeah, and you know, I'm a knife lover, and, you know, the Filipino culture is the culture of knife lovers anyway, and so that's it. So Sonny, here we go. Give it to me, Sonny.
Well, thank you,
Mike.
Thank you, Sifu Mike. Actually, there was one question that kept coming up in the chat box. People were asking about, do you have a website or anything like that that they can, I guess, or place an order for the knife? Or is it the best way just to get a hold of you on Facebook Messenger to directly talk to you about it?
Yeah, I it's personable to me, so I have them just message me on Facebook Messenger.
Okay. All right. Terrific. So you guys heard him. The best way to get a hold of him is just to get him on Facebook and Facebook Messenger, and then directly talk to him, so that this way you guys can chit chat and talk about it and get him to customize that knife accordingly to you, because each knife is different. I've seen some of these knives, and wow, they're absolutely amazing. And there's a lot of stars and celebrities and other instructors that already have them and love them, and I know that you will love them too. Again, thank you for joining us, Sifu Mike Mathers. And again, everybody, if you're watching this on the replay on YouTube, don't forget, if you learned anything, if it even made you just smile, place that thumbs up, okay, that you liked it. Write a comment saying where you're from, so that this way we can say hi back to you. And also, don't forget to press that subscribe button, so that this way you'll get notified for every other video that Sifu Al posts on YouTube. So again, Thank you, Sifu Wow. Thank you, Sifu Mike, for this great interview. And again, people, remember that one of the big take that I got was pain makes believers, guys. I believe that Sifu Wally J was the one who quoted that pain makes believers. And the best way to do is go through some trial and tribulations, go through some pains to make you bigger, stronger, faster, or any other way that you guys want to grow. So again, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
One more. I got one more thing.
One more.
Um,
Go ahead.
okay, just one more thing. Next week we have Gabby Itman, one of our very first female black belts in Germany. And it's going to be a great interview because I mean she's a top fighter, top instructor, and you guys gotta listen to her. I mean, and you'll hear it from a woman's point of view. So I just want to just plug it in and let you guys know about it. Okay, guys, I guess that's it for today. And thank you, Sifu Jan Tidgar, for joining in, Mike Mathers and Harper and all those people out there. So, and Howard Heller is always out there. So, guys, thank you very much. And hasta la vista and aloha and mahalo. Have a great time. Bye-bye.